All right, thanks for joining us on CBN for a look back at the midterm elections. Lorna Romero, you run this operation. Matt Benson, Jason Barraza from Veritas, public affairs firm here in Arizona. All right, let's talk about ballot questions, propositions. Proposition 127, I heard something about it. You're going to have to walk us through it. I don't recall a lot about it. Bankrolled by Tom Steyer. Matt, you were part of that campaign. It wasn't close. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, look, this looks like it's going to go down by about a 70-30 margin. What happened? I think that they lost the message war. And what was at stake in this election was whether voters were going to choose the idea of solar and clean energy and that, or were they going to vote their pocketbook? And ultimately they voted their pocketbook because they believed the fact, which is that Prop 127 was going to increase what they pay for electricity every month when they get that utility bill. It's a universal experience, something every Arizona voter can relate to, and it was potent in this election cycle. And we saw that from the first early polling to the final results on Election Day, we saw a total flip in terms of where voters came down on this issue.
All right, you said that the pro-127 campaign lost the message war, but the message changed. We're now reading that it really wasn't about passing 127. It was about something about the utility company, something about legislators and the attorney general.
Right. Yeah, nothing like a little post-election moving of the goalposts. So, I mean, look, I feel a little bad for him, right? I mean, if I had spent $25 million of Tom Steyer's money and got beat, 2-1 on the initiative, didn't succeed in taking out any of the legislators that I'd wanted, failed in taking out the attorney general, failed in taking out the governor, I mean, what else would I have to hold on to? So, I mean, truly, I think it's desperate on their part.
Jason, a washout for Tom Steyer, as Matt said, didn't win the ballot question, didn't win at the candidate level. What are his takeaways from this election?
Well, his takeaways, and I think that what the people that were involved in it need to take away from it was there was some success early on, right? The idea, I think, originally was we need something that is going to mobilize our voters, provide us something to register more voters off of, and that's exactly what they really used it for. In the end, it was, if we can do something about renewable energy, great, let's keep that moving forward. That clearly became an issue as we saw this play out, so let's pivot and start trying to knock off some of the officials that are out there. I don't think that either passing renewable energy and or attacking elected officials was the ultimate goal of that measure ever. I think it was all about using something to register new voters and having something to talk about early on.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, how many voters could you have registered with $25 million?
Hey, you need something to talk about first. So let's spend some money there. Let's create our mechanism. Let's create our network, which is what Steyer did. I mean, he's building a network in states across America, and he spent $25 million building it in a very red state here in Arizona.
So Lorna, tough night for Tom Steyer.
Tough night for Tom Steyer. I mean, I wish I had $25 million that I could just dump into the toilet like he did. But just to piggyback on what Jason was saying, I don't think there was success. Like, he wasn't building infrastructure. You can maybe make an argument that the only statewide Democrat that benefited was Sinema, but she avoided Tom Steyer and the more progressive Democrats like the plague. So it didn't result in any kind of measurement whatsoever. He just really wasted his cash, and it backfired on him tremendously.
Well, I think she definitely avoided the issue and anything related to the messaging. But I'm sure she was very happy to see that the voter registration process was taking place and that people were turning out in some of their most targeted areas. I mean, that was a benefit to her.
I think that my question will be, because they didn't get that money, that $25 million, without any strings attached, right? Yeah. The Democrats had to endorse Prop 127 lock, stock, and barrel, and many of them did, and the party did, and it became associated with Democrats, and it went down 70-30. And so to what extent was Prop 127 an anchor around the necks of every Democrat in the state? Because in order to get Steyer's money, they had to endorse his
Which I think is where the failure was in the Democratic Party here and the candidates that signed up for it. I mean, why would you lock yourself into that kind of measure? It's a policy debate that many of them are now locked in that they can't pivot off of, or they can't even debate because you have to accept the whole thing. I mean, something like that, an energy initiative, has no business being something that's going to go to the voters because we can't talk about this. We're locked into whatever's going to be on that ballot, and on a difficult, complicated policy issue, you want to be able to talk about that and allow your candidates to talk about that. And that just created a weight for all of them.
All right, let's talk about the legislature. We are probably going to stand pat in the state Senate, 17-13 to the GOP advantage. It's looking like 31-29 to the Republicans in the House. These are narrow margins. How do you think the governor navigates this? And is it business as usual? Every session's a little different, but how does this shake out?
There's no such thing as business as usual in the legislature, especially in the past decade, because you've had scenarios where you have Republican majorities and a Republican governor, and there's still a lot of infighting. We witnessed that. And then you've had times where there was a Democrat governor and Republican majorities, and they got along pretty well. So I think, we were mentioning this before about Governor Ducey kind of being, the elder statesman in a sense in Arizona, and so he's really going to be able to take the lead at this point. It's his second term. The leadership right now, at least on the majority side for the Republicans, are folks who've been at the Capitol for a while, have a great working relationship with him in his office. But it really is going to depend on how they're able to manage their caucus.
Right.
That's always the question, is the strength of a leadership team down there. And then on the flip side, especially when you're looking at the House in a 31-29 split, what's going to be the makeup of the minority leadership? And how willing are they going to be to work with the Republican colleagues and the Republican governor? I mean, it would make sense for them to try to work together given the margins, but we've seen politics play out plenty of times. So,
Jason, in the House, now you only need to peel off one vote and you could force a tie, and it's always been tight in the Senate, peel off 2 votes. How do you think this affects the governor's agenda, and how do you think the Democrats respond to this new margin?
I think it affects everybody's agenda in Arizona to really try to make your policy positions nonpartisan. Because as soon as we move into a partisan arena at that Capitol, people are going to lock down hard, and we're going to see very little movement about what's going on. So I think that it really speaks to an individual's success to be able to keep something a nonpartisan issue where people can move back and forth, and to allow them to do that.
Matt, popular governor, narrow margins at the State House and State Senate. What does it mean?
It's going to be brutal. If you've read Lord of the Flies, I think you'll have
Sure.
some
Shells,
feeling
the
for how the House is going to be. I mean, like, this is the narrowest margin in the House in memory. And so it's going to be incumbent on the House Speaker, Speaker Bowers, to keep his caucus together. And really, it's I think a lot of it's going to come down to those few remaining moderates on both sides, and they're going to set the agenda more than anything else.
They got a
down
lot
there.
of power now. All right. Lorna Romero, Matt Benson, Jason Barraza, thanks for doing this as we look back at the election, and we'll see you next time.